Good evening, I am your host, Jack Remington, of Jack Remington Political Analyst. Last week, Bernie Sanders suspended his campaign.
Joe Biden will be the Democratic nominee, and here's Mary Bruce.
Bernie Sanders dropped out today, telling supporters victory was, quote, virtually impossible.
I wish I could give you better news, but I think you know the truth.
Sanders' path to the nomination had become increasingly unrealistic ever since Joe Biden's big Super Tuesday comeback. And as the coronavirus crisis grew, so did the question.
This feels a little bit like it did when you didn't come out when Hillary Clinton was clearly the person folks were going for. So can you explain why you're still in the race and what this path is that you see?
One of the reasons, that's not quite accurate, I worked as hard as I could for Hillary Clinton.
I cannot, in good conscience, continue to mount a campaign that cannot win and which would interfere with the important work required of all of us in this difficult hour.
Now, Joe Biden is already looking ahead. Today, he announced he will have a plan in place to vet potential running mates by the end of this month. David.
And of course, he's already said he will choose a woman. Mary Bruce, thank you for that tonight.
Like it or not, Bernie Sanders has had an effect on American politics and is a most interesting case study for politics in the future. But first things first, what happened to Bernie in 2020? 2016 and 2020 are two completely different elections with two different dynamics. Let's start with 2016. The GOP was filtering through 17 major candidates, which received the initial press thanks to Donald Trump entering the race. But the Democrats only had 3 to view: Hillary Clinton, Martin O'Malley, the retired governor from the state of Maryland, and Bernie Sanders, a senator from Vermont. As Hillary Clinton was a huge prohibitive favorite to win the presidency, not much attention was given to the trio of the Democrats at the time. At first, Martin O'Malley was actually ahead of Bernie for second place. But Bernie had his shift of the free college, no more student loan debts, that he ever rarely discussed ever before. Now, let's face it, which demographic has the most of all student loan debt? The millennials. Despite Bernie Sanders being then in his mid-70s, he shrewdly pandered to that college-age crowd to even start to let his physical appearance lapse, especially his hair. Very Einstein-like. So Bernie Sanders had his moments of fame from 2016 because he pushed the mighty Hillary Clinton to the brink of beating her. But Bernie blinked. He buckled under Hillary's thumb, and that stung many of his avid followers. Many of those followers left Bernie in the dust and just stayed home in 2016. Now, looking at the 2020 election cycle, Bernie Sanders had far stiffer competition within the Democrat Party. A few viable female district attorneys, such as Senator Kamala Harris of California and Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota. Then he had to compete against the likes of Vice President Joe Biden, upstarts Andrew Yang and Cory Booker and Tulsi Gabbard. The Democrats had over 30 viable, well-funded candidates, an all-time record high number for any major American political party ever. Not helping Bernie was direct competition via Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, who had socialistic policies very similar to Bernie's. And then getting the 3-time New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg to get into the race, despite missing the first 2 primaries very late in the race, spending over $600 million of his own money to help stop Bernie Sanders.
Billionaires today, if you can believe it, have an effective tax rate lower than the middle class. So maybe just
the tax code. Why are you complaining? Who wrote the code?
You did. You and your campaign. Not me. Okay. You and your campaign contributions, electing people who represent the wealthy and the powerful.
Yes.
Those are the
Democrats.
Well, and Republicans too.
Okay.
And George W. Bush as well. We have a grotesque and immoral distribution of wealth and income. Mike Bloomberg owns more wealth than the bottom 125 million Americans. That's wrong, that's immoral. That should not be the case when we got 500,000 people sleeping out on the streets. where we have kids who cannot afford to go to college, when we have 45 million people dealing with student debt. Congratulations, Mr. Bloomberg. But the average American last year saw less than a 1% increase in his or her income. That's wrong. You know what, Mr. Bloomberg? It wasn't you who made all that money. Maybe your workers played some role in that as well. And it is important that those workers are able to share the benefits also. I want workers to be able to sit on corporate boards as well, so they can have some say over what happens to their lives.
Can Senator Sanders beat President Trump, and how do you want to respond to what else he said?
I don't think there's any chance of the senator beating President Trump. You don't start out by saying, I've got 160 million people, I'm going to take away the insurance plan that they love. That's just not a ways that you go and start building the coalition that the Sanders camp thinks that they can do. I don't think there's any chance whatsoever. And if he goes and is the candidate, we will have Donald Trump for another 4 years, and we can't stand that. But I was going to say, look, we maybe want to talk about businesses. I'm the only one here that I think that's ever started a business. Is that fair?
Mayor Bloomberg, should you exist?
I can't speak for all billionaires. All I know is I've been very lucky, made a lot of money, and I'm giving it all away to make this country better. And a good chunk of it goes to the Democratic Party as well.
Is it too much? Have you earned too much money? Should you have earned that much money?
Yes, I worked very hard for it, and I'm giving it away. Absolutely not. I can't think of a ways that would make it easier for Donald Trump to get reelected than listening to this conversation. It's ridiculous. What a wonderful country we have. The best-known socialist in the country happens to be a millionaire with 3 houses. What did I miss here?
Well, you'll miss that I work in Washington, house one.
That's the first problem.
Live in Burlington, house 2.
That's good.
And like thousands of other Vermonters, I do have a summer camp. Forgive me for that. Where is your home? Which tax haven do you have your home?
New York City, thank you very much. And I pay all my taxes. And I'm happy to do it because I get something for it. And let me say, you can join me at MikeBloomberg.com too if you want, but I'm not asking for any money.
Vice President Joe Biden did not show any signs of decline that he's showing now at the beginning of this election cycle when the DNC already handpicked him as their nominee. In short, the DNC backed a candidate closer to the center, and Bernie's policies are very to the left, and that's a problem for most of this country, and it will cause a serious upheaval within the Democrat Party. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're comparing Vice President Joe Biden versus Hillary Clinton. Who would Bernie really fare better against? There's 2 major factors why Vice President Joe Biden is a far more formidable opponent for Bernie in 2020 than Hillary was in 2016. Number 1, Joe Biden has been a professional politician for almost 50 years. Hillary Clinton's qualifications as First Lady and then that Senate seat handed to her in 2004 just does not hold water to Joe Biden's accomplishments and longevity in politics. He was a former vice president for 8 years. Great visibility. The Hillary Clinton email scandal in 2016 was front page news. No one really cares about the Ukrainian scandal in 2019 for Joe Biden, as the Democrats don't want the entire Barack Obama administration scrutinized, for obviously biased reasons. But back in 2016, everyone was glued to the internet and TV because the 2016 election was a historic presidential race like no other. 2 very polarizing candidates, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, was the headlines of 2016. Number 2, Hillary ran against Barack Obama in 2008, but Joe Biden ran with Obama as a vice president nominee in 2008. That's a big difference. Even though Obama just today endorsed his former vice president, Joe Biden, the Obama blessings in 2008 is still enough for Joe Biden this year. See that turnaround primary in South Carolina, which propelled Biden, and he left the entire field in the dust and didn't look back. Hillary Clinton's less than stellar qualifications gave rise to the question of, should we give Donald Trump a shot? and that actually proved to be a factor in that election. But not so in 2020 with Vice President Joe Biden. This election is rallying behind the best chance to beat Donald Trump this coming November. Truth be told, Bernie got what I call the split decision in Iowa. He technically lost to Mayor Pete Buttigieg of South Bend, Indiana. Mayor Pete got a silver more votes. And Iowa not getting his act together with his special app to count the ballots in time did not help. Vice President Joe Biden banked his entire campaign on that fourth primary, that crucial South Carolina primary, and Vice President Joe Biden got the Obama voters, and Bernie never did well with the black American voters. The DNC openly panicked when Bernie took that early sizable lead after the first three primaries. And after the Nevada primary, the DNC decided, hey, look, we can't have a radical socialist as a nominee because it's going to hurt our party in the down balloting in the not-so-blue states. They stood to lose the House of Representatives and lose seats in the Senate. When Bernie got trounced in Michigan by Vice President Joe Biden, the writing was on the wall. No candidate ever in American politics wins the first 2 out of 3 primaries and then gets smoked, ever. That shows you the power of the DNC. Yes, Vice President Biden still struggles to this day to get the Latino votes because his boss, Barack Obama, was nicknamed the deporter-in-chief, and for Joe Biden, to his credit, he openly wished to extend an Obama policy for those who commit crimes. But Bernie jumped the shark too fast here by promising Latinos more amnesty, free daycare, free health care for all, and jumping on the amnesty bandwagon turned off a lot of the independent voters. Those independent voters are the ones that Bernie needs, especially the over age 40 crowd, and that crowd has the jobs and pays taxes. In one word, no. Admit it. Bernie Sanders is the modern-day Robin Hood. He steals from the rich to give to the poor. Bernie used to rail against millionaires and billionaires until he became a millionaire himself. Now Bernie rails against billionaires, like Mayor Bloomberg. Bernie Sanders did rail against Mayor Bloomberg on the national TV debate stage, and some viewers were turned off by Bernie denying anyone their right to exist, billionaire or not. It did make him look a little bad. Bernie also had to admit that yes, taxes were going to go up for the middle class at a minimum of 52%. And lose their health care on top of that, that affects 150 million Americans. Bernie selling his point as health care is a right. No one, and I mean no one, could ever sell it in the capitalist country. Advanced education and professional board certification, such as being a doctor or a registered nurse, to participate in a specialized field such as medicine and science, is one of the highest achievements in the most specialized scientific professions in the world, and it has been in the past and will forever remain so. It costs a lot of money to get on the AMA boards, to get the American Medical Association doctorates that requires a minimum of 2 decades of education, including the long internships. To expect anyone to get that 7-figure education, medicine, and science, and then give the services away for free or next to nothing is ludicrous on its face. Some basic facts about professional services. They cost money. You get what you pay for in this world. Bernie Sanders is proposing to hollow out the health care to provide health care for all. Like my car insurance agent told me years ago, if the insurance companies can't make a profit, they just simply will go away. And then you're left on your own. Someone crashes to your car, it's too bad. The free college tuition and student loan debt forgiveness? Nothing is free, Bernie. Nothing is free. And another big difference between 2016 and 2020 election cycle is that now people have had 4 more years to figure out that Bernie Sanders is an empty suit. He has nothing really to offer. Admitting that Bernie admired Fidel Castro didn't help either. And then if you go back far enough, Defending the Ayatollah Khomeini during the Iran hostage crisis during 1978-1979 also did not go over very well with fellow politicians. That came to light again this year, and people in 2016 missed that.
I think the right to vote is inherent to our democracy. Yes, even for terrible people.
People who are convicted in prison, like the Boston Marathon bomber, on death row, people who are convicted of sexual assault, they should be able to vote?
I think we should have that conversation.
While incarcerated?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
So Bernie, yes. Kamala Harris, study it. Pete Buttigieg, no.
Unfortunately, he did. That shooter at the congressional softball practice was a rabid Bernie Sanders supporter.
I have just been informed that the alleged shooter at the Republican baseball practice this morning is someone who apparently volunteered on my presidential campaign. I am sickened by this despicable act, and let me be as clear as I can be. Violence of any kind is unacceptable in our society, and I condemn this action in the strongest possible terms.
When Elizabeth Warren cut Bernie bad with her Hail Mary sexist comments before that debate.
I think you called me a liar on national TV.
What?
I think you called me a liar on national TV.
Let's not do it right now. You want to have that discussion, we'll have that discussion. You called me, you told me. All right, let's not do it now.
I don't want to get middle. I just want to say hi, Bernie.
Yeah, good. Okay.
She walked away without a handshake after intentionally trying to de-escalate the fight earlier in the debate.
Bernie is my friend, and I am not here to try to fight with Bernie.
But Warren wanted to make a point that a woman can win the presidency. It was one of the most memorable lines of the night.
Look at the men on this stage. Collectively, they have lost 10 elections. The only people on this stage who have won every single election that they've been in are the women.
They were sparring over a comment Warren says Sanders made during a private meeting in 2018 that a woman couldn't win the White House. Sanders strongly denied ever making such an assertion.
As a matter of fact, I didn't say it. And I don't want to waste a whole lot of time on this, because this is what Donald Trump and maybe some of the media want. Anybody knows me, knows that it's incomprehensible that I would think that a woman could not be president of the United States.
In the moment, Warren disagreed, but waited more than an hour later until after the debate to accuse Sanders of calling her a liar.
The Burlington College scandal with Bernie's wife was involved with also hurt. She committed bank fraud by overstating the assets of Burlington College, and then Bernie Sanders used every favor he could call in, every favor he could muster up as a senator to get the FBI to drop the investigation. In 2016, several of Bernie's male staffers were fired over several sexual harassment claims against the female staffers.
Is there a reason?
Well, why? I have to have a reason to leave.
We have a permit for this. I'm going to ask you one more time.
So I'm being ejected from a public event? I'm on the ground.
Yes, ma'am.
On the ground.
Because,
Am I violating the rules or anything?
Ma'am, this is an event that we pay for.
Right.
This is an event that we have bought the space. I'm going to ask you one more time. If you are not, I'm going to have to turn it over to you.
I'll leave, that's fine. But is it, did I violate any rules or anything?
Ma'am, I ask you one more time. If you do not leave now, I'm going to turn over the wall.
These cops that
Let's
are...
go.
Look at
Let's
him.
go.
Okay, so
Let's
you
go.
don't... It's funny that you're talking about private crowds. You don't really have a literature to support private property. What did I do? This is so funny. Can I ask what I did?
Are you a police officer or private security? No, private security.
No problem. I need to know what rules I violated.
It is a private event, therefore it's considered private property.
It's a
Therefore,
public event.
it is considered private property and a private event.
His website said it was a public event.
This is what I've been told by the campaign staff. I am following their orders.
So you work for the campaign staff?
We are contracted through them. I'm just doing what they've asked me to do. I have no control over this. They asked me that they would like you to leave for the day.
For what reason?
We are facilitating that because we are contracted by them. I'm going to have to ask you to please keep walking. We're just going to keep this as nice as possible, okay? I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just...
Will the burn run in 2024? Yes. Why not? Of course, he'll be 83 years old at that point in 2024, but when you're giving away someone else's wealth away for votes, why not? Why turn off the money spigot? Would you turn it off? Be honest with yourself. In my observation, Bernie Sanders could never have launched that kite, let alone launched a serious presidential run anywhere else but the sleepy time state of Vermont. 97% white, higher proportion of retired people versus job seekers, it's vacation land, and still maintaining a small-time college industry makes the New England state of Vermont a true under-the-radar place to grow a movement. To remain successful in the state of Vermont, Bernie needed to develop the political persona to appeal to a constituency closer to his age. Bernie had learned to tone down his positive spin for Fidel Castro and other brutal, ruthless communist dictators in front of the Vermont voters. And until he got scrutiny, it worked. In decades past, a few candidates such as Eugene Debs of the Communist Party of America would get on the ballot and was looked on as a distraction or even a novelty, rarely ever getting serious votes to affect any election. Debs was fodder for stand-up comedians and late-night radio talk show hosts. But Bernie Sanders proved that today's voters are far more likely to accept socialism and give it a try. And they like the promises of free college, the free daycare, government-run health care, increase of minimum wage, etc. Bernie was enough of a force to get the DNC to openly steer the campaign to once again block Bernie in 2020 just like he did in 2016 versus Hillary Clinton. Bernie Sanders only uses the DNC to run for president, and he did this twice now. Then when it's over, he returns as the independent senator in his home state of Vermont. But on the other hand, the DNC used Bernie to get the least likely group to participate in this process, the millennials. Bernie Sanders brought that demographic to the lobby door, and this became the ultimate cat and mouse game between Bernie and the DNC. Bernie could get the nomination to swing his bat at Trump to possibly win the presidency. Quite a prize. But the DNC got the chance to get more voters registered and will spam them for the next 50 years. The DNC actually outmaneuvered the old Sir Wally Fox twice. But someone else, a newer politician, will pick up where Bernie Sanders left off. That's the purpose of this video. It will no doubt be another Democratic or Independent. Someone who would never get votes out of their immediate family as on a Republican ticket. This would not work for them. And the demographics are destiny. The Democrats have out-registered the Republicans in embarrassing numbers since the year 2000. And upstart politicians see this. This is why we see a record number of women and other minorities running for public offices at all levels, all states, all counties, all cities. And over 80% of these newcomers since the year 2000, they registered with the Democrat Party. Someone else will come along with different lipstick and bells and whistles to get the votes. That someone, a socialist, Democrat like Bernie, they will somehow figure out how to link the Bernie bros of today with what's left of the endangered middle-class species, the bulk of the tax revenue in this country. That someone might have the right persona combined with the right promises of free stuff or for other free policies to get any communists into the White House. Always a great day to be an American. Thank you. Have a great day. See you next time.